All right. It has been a while. And, well, yeah, that could obviously be said about uploads on this channel because, well, my life is a never-ending dumpster fire and, well, I hate everything and myself. But that also could be said about Tom Brady. This past week, Tom Brady, in the midst of a huge NFL coaching scandal, just take your pick on that one, a huge NFL ownership scandal, also take your pick on that one, announced his retirement the way a 45-year-old white guy would, announce his retirement from a job on Instagram. That's right, Tom Brady has walked away from the sport as the greatest quarterback of all time, but to be completely honest, it shouldn't have gone down that way. Now, I'm not trying to take away his accomplishments in New England and in Tampa Bay. Nobody could do that except the New York Giants, the Philadelphia Eagles, maybe the Atlanta Falcons if they didn't screw that one up, and, Seattle, except for a goal line stand. Why would you throw that ball? Why wouldn't you have Marshawn Lynch? Pete Carroll, what is wrong with you as a... You know what, it's been a long time. We're gonna get away from that. I owe some people some money for that still to this day, so I'm just a little bitter. You dumb son of... You know what? I'm in therapy now. I'm centered. I'm better. Tom Brady's career could be summed up as the greatest stroke of luck in American sports history because of the way it plays out. And it plays out because of something I call the Rosenblum variable. What's the Rosenblum variable? Well, back in 2011 when I was writing for JBL, yes, JBL's website, the Layfield Report, I came up with a theory that if Carroll Rosenblum, then the owner of the Los Angeles Rams, doesn't die under what has been called mysterious circumstances, John Elway does not become a Denver Bronco. Instead, he becomes, that's right, you guessed it, a Los Angeles Ram. I'll cover all of that in another video 45 weeks from now when I actually have the time to make another video. But how does this lead to Tom Brady being the greatest quarterback of all time? It all goes back to the tuck game. I needed to change my shirt for this section of the video anyway. If the Pats lose that game, it sets a whole bunch of things in motion, including John LOL I don't know how techs work Gruden leading a stacked Raiders team to their first Super Bowl since the Tom Flores Los Angeles Raiders era over 20 years before that, and not a Tom Callahan-led team completely enveloping on itself like an imploding star to, that's right, you guessed it, Gruden's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Does this stop the Patriots from becoming a dynasty, though? That's really hard to say, because you take a look at the AFC West. If Gruden's still there and Dick Vermeil's still in Kansas City, San Diego becomes a weird odd man out situation. You don't know if it ends up being the same exact team that ends up getting rid of Drew Brees and bringing in just a few years later Eli Manning and then Phillip Rivers. You don't really know how all of that plays out, but it creates a lot of interesting scenarios. And those mismanagement issues for San Diego are going to be there no matter what. They completely bungled the ball. You had LaDainian Tomlinson and Drew Brees on the same team, and somehow you screw that up? That's why they're in LA. But back to the Patriots, who will still own the AFC East, as we said, because that entire division was dysfunctional. It's still dysfunctional to this day. It took the Bills how long to get out of mediocrity? The Dolphins are, well, you've seen the news. And the Jets are the Jets, and they will never not be the Jets. And the North, Roethlisberger coming in 2004, gave the Steelers a shot in the arm and turned them into a perennial Super Bowl and playoff contender, and it was the Ravens' division to lose. They were a team that was all defense, no offense, and we really didn't see an evolution until Joe freaking Flacco over a decade later. And then you have the sweet-tempered mediocrity of Marvin Lewis and the Cincinnati Bengals. A organization 20 years after the fact, finally getting to the Super Bowl after just being stymied in an era where you had Chad Johnson, you had Andy Dalton, you had AJ Green, but Marvin Lewis was the crux of all of that. I don't know if he was cursed. I don't know if the team was cursed. I don't know if it's the ghost of Paul Brown just casting a shadow over the state of Ohio. I don't know. The tuck rule game created two roads. The first one, the road we're on now. Am I saying that the tuck rule is the reason why everything the last 20 years has been a nightmarish shit show? I'm not saying that. But the other road, the road where the AFC becomes a Raider nation for the next 5 years, while Kansas City and San Diego get their collective shit together and turn the AFC West into a never-ending firefight, while the Ravens and Pittsburgh continue to smash each other about the head, and the Patriots and the Colts still become the two best teams in the AFC through process of elimination because the other two divisions are beating the hell out of each other, and the Colts have to play the Jaguars, the Titans, and the Texans, while the Pats play the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins. So we might end up here anyway. Also, the NFC was fucking terrible. While the Giants and Bucs teams had relatively really good defenses and strong rushing attacks, you can't make an argument that the NFC was a better conference in that time period, unless obviously you are talking about Michael Vick. Gets me to the central point of this video. If Michael Vick doesn't run Mexico, injure, and dogfight himself out of the NFL for a few years, and Bobby Petrino just doesn't happen, the Atlanta Falcons are a completely different team, and the dynasty that they could have been could reconfigure the entire history of the NFL. 28-3 could have been a footnote in a history between the Patriots and the Falcons. And you just keep going back to it. Michael Vick, in that time period, was something special. He was the Bo Jackson of our day. If you talk about Tecmo Bowl and Bo Jackson, and you couldn't use the Raiders because of Bo Jackson, Madden 2004 was the exact same thing for my generation. If you were playing Madden 2004, the Falcons were a cheat code. Michael Vick was a cheat code. You couldn't use him. You couldn't use that. I've seen fist fights break out over people wanting to use the Atlanta Falcons in Madden 2004. It was wild in these streets back 15, 16 years ago. So if you're playing Madden 2004 in that time period, and you're playing with Michael Vick, and you're seeing this completely transformative football player, and then realize that the next few years are full of Jake Delhomme and Rex Grossman representing the National Football Conference in the by goddamn Super Bowl, you would have slapped me with a PS2 controller and defenestrated me out of the Georgia Dome, and you would have been right to do it. Sadly, we can't change time. Yet. Tom Brady walks away from the sport as the greatest quarterback of all time, and we can't undo what has been done. But those rabbit holes are fun. Going down them, exploring them, trying to figure out what could have been, what should have been, how things might have been. It's kind of a fun thing. And we're going to examine them. I don't know if it's going to be every week, or every 6 months, which probably would be the most likely option. But that's the fun part of sports. All those questions. And I'm going to keep yelling about it. I'm Matt Ryan, and this was Yelling.